I thought I was closing the last chapter of my past that quiet Saturday afternoon. The cardboard box in my arms held every memory I had promised myself I would never look at again. A framed photo, a knitted blanket, a few books, and little things that once meant forever. I expected a quick goodbye and a long drive home. Instead, the woman who opened that front door would unknowingly become the reason I finally believed that broken hearts could heal in ways no one ever expects. If you believe kindness can heal old wounds, that forgiveness is stronger than resentment, and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more heartwarming stories to people around the world. My name is Nathan, and at 34, I had become an expert at pretending I was fine. 2 years earlier, my relationship with my former girlfriend, Rebecca, had quietly fallen apart after years of growing in different directions. There had been no dramatic betrayal, no shouting matches, no slammed doors. Sometimes life simply pulls two good people toward different futures. Even so, letting go had been harder than I ever admitted. I had buried myself in work as a carpenter in Columbus, Ohio, convincing myself that staying busy was the same thing as moving on. Returning her belongings had taken months, because every time I packed the box, I found another excuse not to drive across town. That morning, however, I finally gathered enough courage. When I reached the small white house where Rebecca had once lived, I noticed unfamiliar flowers on the porch and a wind chime gently singing in the breeze. I knocked once, expecting to see a familiar face. Instead, the door opened to a woman named Grace. She looked surprised to find someone holding a memory-filled box, but her warm smile immediately softened the awkwardness. She explained that Rebecca had moved to another state nearly 6 months earlier after accepting a teaching position in Oregon. Grace had become the new roommate shortly before Rebecca left and was helping prepare the house for its eventual sale. The words hit me harder than I expected. I had spent months building up the courage for a goodbye that was no longer possible. Seeing the disappointment on my face, Grace kindly invited me inside for a glass of iced tea while she searched for Rebecca's forwarding address among some paperwork. The house felt strangely familiar and completely different at the same time. Old photographs had been replaced with paintings, and laughter seemed to linger in rooms that once held painful silence. As we talked, I learned Grace worked as an occupational therapist at a children's rehabilitation center. She spoke about helping young patients learn simple tasks most people take for granted, and every story she shared carried genuine compassion rather than pride. There was something peaceful about the way she listened. She never interrupted, never rushed to give advice, and never tried to fix my feelings. She simply made space for them. Eventually, she found Rebecca's address, but instead of leaving immediately, I stayed another hour. We spoke about forgiveness, unexpected endings, and how sometimes life closes one door before we even realize another has quietly opened nearby. Over the following weeks, I mailed the box to Oregon. Rebecca later sent a heartfelt thank you note, wishing me happiness and expressing gratitude that we had shared part of each other's journey. Reading her letter felt less like reopening an old wound and more like finally placing a gentle bandage over it. Meanwhile, Grace and I continued meeting for coffee now and then. Nothing felt forced. There were no dramatic declarations or perfect movie moments. We simply enjoyed conversations that grew longer and laughter that came more easily with every passing week. One rainy afternoon, Grace invited me to volunteer at the rehabilitation center's family picnic. I spent the day repairing wooden benches, building birdhouses with children, and watching families celebrate milestones that many people would consider ordinary. One little boy proudly tied his own shoes for the first time, and his parents cried with joy. That simple moment reminded me how easy it is to overlook life's smallest victories. For the first time in years, I realized happiness wasn't waiting somewhere in the future. It was quietly growing inside ordinary moments, shared with good people. Months later, my father became seriously ill after surgery. Without hesitation, Grace rearranged her schedule to help drive him to appointments and even prepared meals when I barely had energy to think. She never asked for recognition. She simply showed up, Watching her care for someone she barely knew taught me that love isn't measured by grand promises, but by consistent acts of kindness. One evening, while helping my father plant flowers in his backyard after he had recovered, he smiled and said that sometimes God answers prayers by sending someone we never expected through a door we almost didn't knock on. I looked across the yard where Grace was laughing with my father, and for the first time, those words truly made sense. If this story has touched your heart or reminded you that hope often arrives when we least expect it, please support this video with a like, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe for more uplifting stories that celebrate kindness and second chances. Before this story ends, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and tell us about a moment when an unexpected act of kindness changed your life. Your story might become the encouragement someone else needs today. Looking back now, I smile whenever I remember that heavy cardboard box. I believed I was carrying the final pieces of a failed relationship. In truth, I was carrying the first step toward a future I never imagined. I went there expecting to let go of the past, but the simple kindness of a stranger named Grace reminded me that healing rarely arrives with fanfare. Sometimes it quietly opens the front door, offers you a place to sit, and gently changes your life forever.